Welcome to another episode of Immigration and Mobility Decoded. I'm one of your hosts, Cecily Petrie, joined as always by Eric Prado. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing good, Cecily. How are you doing?
I am also well. We're getting back into the swing of our podcast recording. So we're excited to be back and sharing a new episode with our listeners today. And for Eric and I both trying to getting back in the swing of it and back to recording. And we have some exciting things lined up for all of our listeners.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting and great to get back in the swing of things, start recording some new episodes and chatting with some new guests. It's great to have you as a co-host. And yeah, we did have a little break with the end of the year, November and December with the holidays, and then I was on paternity leave at the start of the year. So yeah, lots of good things happening. So I'm definitely excited that we got some new episodes coming out.
Exactly. Very exciting for Eric and enjoying fatherhood. So we're glad to be back, but we're also glad he got to have a break and enjoy the paternity leave.
Yes, and it's been a blast. Son just turned 4 months old, so it's definitely a blast. The sleep is hit or miss. All the rumors are true. There's some good nights, there's some bad nights, but it's all in good fun.
And what they say, I think the days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah,
Is that ringing true? So, I mean, I guess 4 months.
with
So
it.
once we get a little further into years, then you'll be able to give us the spiel on that.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like the days definitely feel long, but then they also like all blur together. And so you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, there's the day just started, but then before you know it, it's like putting him down for bed. You're like, I don't know what I did today. Like I don't know where all the hours went.
I know. And then, work fitting into all of that and it's busy, but
Yeah.
it's an exciting time of life. And I think also last time I hadn't changed my name
Mm.
yet from the last time we were recording. So from Cecily Nelson to Cecily Petrie. So we'll preface that as well, seeing the new last name on here after I got married in September.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Well, we have a really great episode today for our listeners. Eric and I had the privilege of chatting with the executive director of the Rise Foundation by Envoy Global, which is our nonprofit dedicated to supporting the immigrant community with free legal immigration services. So we had a great conversation with Nancy, and we're excited for you all to get to hear that. Eric, what are kind of your thoughts on kind of prefacing for the listeners our conversation with Nancy?
Yeah, it was a really great conversation. Chatting with Nancy, it was great to hear about her experiences. She actually has gone through like the immigration process herself. She was born in the States and then has lived in Spain and has also lived in Canada. So she's gone through the process herself. But I think most importantly, it was enlightening and warming to hear about the work that she is doing and that her the Rise Foundation is doing, as they mainly work with pro bono services, with individuals seeking support navigating the immigration process in the states. So not so much on the employment or work-based side, but some of those other avenues that are part of the U.S. immigration system.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. I think one of the key pieces that we really touched on was that, behind each petition is a person. So I think that's something that can be forgotten at times when you're going through the mundane paperwork process and this waiting game. And Nancy really had a great view on that and the families and individuals that she's working with from the day to day. And really, the interest that she has in nonprofit work is inspiring. So I really enjoyed our conversation. As we're coming back from our break, we wanted to introduce a new segment with the ever evolving immigration landscape. There's a lot of news and headlines out there. So I want to turn it over to Eric to kind of give us a little brief rundown of the immigration headlines.
Yeah, appreciate it, Cecily. Like you said, there is a lot of news out there. Things are constantly changing. And so as part of this new segment, just want to, share some headlines from various media sources and just, quick snippets of information about what they're about. And then when we post the full episode, we'll include links to these full stories in like the show notes or the description of this episode. So Looking at the last week, we're recording this on April 21st. It was announced that the Supreme Court is going to hear arguments next month over the president's bid to enforce his executive order to restrict automatic birthright citizenship. The president signed this executive order on his first day of office, and it's gone through a few lawsuits and been halted by a few courts at the lower levels. So the Supreme Court's going to hear about that. Some additional headlines. Axios reported that U.S. officials will start to screen immigrants' social media accounts for anti-Semitic. So Axios reported that U.S. officials will start to screen immigrant social media accounts for anti-Semitic content. I can't say that word. I'm gonna cut that one. Some additional headlines that we're seeing is that F1 students are facing termination of their records and potential revocation of their F1 visas. This is a process that the U.S. State Department has started, and potentially terminating their student and exchange visitor information, otherwise known as their SEVIS record. Institutions of higher education are learning about impacted students through notifications that the SEVIS record has been terminated. Another headline from the New York Times: the team known as Doge is reportedly building a system for the U.S. to sell special immigration visas. A few weeks ago, the president called these and announced this as like gold cards. That would be attainable for like $5 million a piece. New York Times is reporting that Doge has been working with the State Department, Department of Homeland Security, and USCIS to create a website and application process for these visas. We're still awaiting more details and information about this, but it's also being reported that this new gold card would replace the EB-5 visa. Lots going on. Every day there are some headlines. Definitely recommend staying on top of the news just to kind of get a sense of what's changing, in various things. Check out envoyglobal.com to subscribe to our newsletters, where every week we'll compile these headlines and send them out to you. Again, these links to the individual stories will be put in the show notes below.
Thanks for sharing those headlines, Eric. Now, here's our episode with Nancy, the Executive Director of the Rise Foundation by Envoy Global.
And now we'd like to welcome Nancy Barillaro from the Rise Foundation to Immigration and Mobility Decoded. Nancy, thank you so much for hopping on the show today. How are you doing?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm doing well. Very excited to speak with you guys and share some information about the Rise Foundation.
We're also very much excited to learn more about the Rise Foundation, the work that you do, the individuals that you help, and any and all insights that you're able to share, Nancy. But before we start talking about the Rise, Cecily and I always like to welcome our guests just to learn a little bit more about you, some fun details, and things like that. So, where do you want to start with your career, your background, anything to start?
Well, so much to say. Well, I guess pertinent information. I'm a first-generation American. My grandmother and mother immigrated here when my mom was a teenager. So immigration is really at the forefront of my family history. I grew up in California in the Bay Area my whole life. I think outside of living in California, I've only ever lived one other place, which was Spain for a year. Oh, no, that's not true. I'm sorry. My husband's Canadian, so we lived in Canada for 2 years as well.
So first generation American, you live in Spain, you live in Canada. Can you maybe talk a little bit about your experience crossing borders and going the process of obtaining? I'm sure you had to have some type of visa or permit to live and work in those destinations.
True, yes. So when I went to Spain, I actually joined a Spanish immersion program. So I was able to get a visa to stay there. And then at that time, this is many years ago, I'm not going to tell you how long ago, but it was a long time ago. After my studying experience was over, I had 6 months where I could just live and travel throughout Europe. So that's what I did. And it was a great experience. I mean, that was the way I did it personally. I did a little bit of like work while I was there teaching English. And interestingly enough, for some law firms that were there, because they really prized American lawyers, uh, and their background, because they don't have the same requirements as far as at the time. I'm not sure if this is still the case. At the time, attorneys in Spain didn't need to go to law school. They just got their bachelor's degree and then they became attorneys. So the fact that Americans required this extra step, they saw that as something valuable. So that was a good way to make some money as I traveled a lot. And then going to Canada, my husband is Canadian, so are my children by virtue of their father being Canadian. So I had to file for, just like here, it's a little easier, I'd have to say, though. I had to file for my permanent residency and go through all that process.
That's really awesome to hear your stories because of the, we're so close to immigration and the folks that our organizations help, the companies that they help, and then to hear your experiences, it's really awesome to hear. So, are you in Canada right now?
I'm not. Now we're back in California.
California, nice.
Yeah.
Of everywhere that you lived, if you had to rank them, what would that ranking look like?
I don't want to get in trouble. I mean, I'm a California girl, so it's pretty tough to, no place like home. So,
There you go.
yeah.
Bay Area still, or somewhere else in
Yes.
Cali?
Yeah, we're in the
Nice,
Bay Area.
nice, cool. Um, Awesome. And Cecily, I always also like to kind of, ask about, some of more of the fun things. So, when you're not working, what are you typically up to with your family? What are you watching, places you like to visit, things like that?
Well, I have three kids. I have a 17-year-old daughter and 15-year-old twin boys. So they keep us pretty busy, just between their events and keeping them entertained and just life in general. Uh, we're Their sports and activities, we're pretty much tied up with that. I like to actually just read quiet time when I have spare time. That's what I enjoy. And we also really like to travel. So
Any upcoming travel that you have? I know we're kind of seeing with kids, we're in that like spring break period. It already happened, or they have upcoming time off. Any fun travel plans?
well, we just went to Spain and Italy in November. So that was our big recent travel. And that was the first time we took the kids as they were old enough to really appreciate it. So that was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it. But for spring break, we just finished, and my daughter is going to UCLA this fall. So we had some college stuff to do, and that was really exciting for her. And for us, but also bittersweet, very sad. So that was a lot of tours and you know presentations by the school this last week.
That's great. That's an exciting next chapter for her and for
Yeah,
you all to watch her.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're pretty excited.
I have to give a quick I don't know if it's a shout out, but for UCLA, because I'm sure they're part of the Big Ten now. And if you can see my background, I went to the University of Illinois, so now we got the little sports rivalry there, and it's just weird to say UCLA on the West Coast is part of the Big Ten. Still getting
Yeah,
used to that one.
yeah.
Great. And I think we can kind of jump in. Nancy is the executive director of the Rise Foundation by Envoy Global, which is Envoy Global's nonprofit that's dedicated to supporting the immigrant community with free legal immigration services. So, Nancy, it would be great if you could kind of give us a little bit of a background on the history of Rise, how it started, the current mission, anything that our listeners would need to know about the Rise Foundation.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to do my best here. So, my understanding is Dick Burke decided that, after years and years of doing what he does, he wanted to start this nonprofit to give back a bit. And I think the lore is, anyway, that he was speaking with Addie Hogan, who's the managing attorney for Corporate Immigration Partners, and maybe a few other people, and they were kind of throwing this idea around. And then I got a phone call from Addie one day, and she said, "Do you know anybody who might want to help us start this nonprofit pro bono legal immigration organization?" And I said, well, yeah, I kind of do. So kind of built from there. And it was definitely a learning curve for all of us because none of us had ever started a nonprofit before. So, I mean, it was eye-opening for me because there's a lot involved, I mean, lots of different filings and things that had to get set up properly so that we could do what we do. So that took a while. But once we got established, we, again, trying to figure out marketing and how to let people know we even exist, that we're here to help. Luckily, we had CIP who had already been doing pro bono work. So they started turning their pro bono work to us, to the Rise Foundation. And that's how we started from there, building word of mouth and clients, helping clients out. Our focus was to literally help people rise up to their potential by helping them move towards legal immigration status, get proper work authorization so that they can find a job. I mean, that's mostly what our clients are looking for, is job security so that they can eat, have housing, have health security, ability to see a doctor when they're ill, take care of their children, and even family back home if that's what they're dealing with in their personal lives. So that was our goal always, is always just to help people who need it, who can't afford the high cost of attorneys, to get that proper work authorization, to help them move towards that path towards legal immigration, because they were unable to find the financial means to do that on their own.
Great. It's an amazing mission. And I'm glad that Envoy Global has the opportunity to have someone like you, Nancy, leading the Rise Foundation, and, all of the work that you're doing to help families and individuals in need. Kind of going back to what kind of piqued your interest in pivoting to the nonprofit space full time. So I know Addie gave you that phone call. Sometimes, when that opportunity knocks on the door, it's, just right time, right place. Was there anything that you were maybe looking to find a role like this in the nonprofit space? Would love to kind of hear a little bit more about that from you.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to give a shout out. I don't know if we'll ever hear this podcast, but his name is Zachary Norris. It's a friend of mine who I used to work with. And when I was doing litigation after completing law school, I had a conversation with him, and he was telling me about this amazing program that he had been working on. And it wasn't in the immigration space, but it was helping wrongly incarcerated people, appeal their sentences. And I was so moved by his story, and it really reminded me a lot about why I decided to become an attorney, which was to help people. And in law school, I had done pro bono work with Addie Hogan, and that was kind of that started it. But I think this conversation with my friend was really the catalyst to me going, you know what, I need to reevaluate my priorities, what I want to do. So at that point, it was definitely at an age where I was in a transition. It was right before I moved to Spain. And a lot was kind of going on. But I think that was really what kind of brought to my attention this idea of what more can I do to help those who really need help? I mean, I'm in this very privileged position where I have a law degree and I can actually just start doing something. So I think from that point on, I really started focusing on trying to do more pro bono work, trying to incorporate that more in what I do. I had kids after that, a few years later. So there's a lot going on, but when I could, it was a focus of mine. And Addie Hogan has always had that same philosophy. She's always incorporated pro bono into her work whenever possible. And I think we just always knew that this was something that a passion we both shared. So, when she did call me, it was based on this kind of understanding that we had that this is an important part of what we do.
And it goes back to, behind every petition is a person. So, you're seeing all of these petitions coming through, but it's not just a decision, yes or no. There's a person, there's a family, that this decision is their livelihood. So I think that's really great that you have the opportunity to help some of those individuals and families who might not have that same opportunity as another individual. And that kind of leads us into, if you could kind of highlight exactly what type of work the Rise Foundation does or engages in.
Yeah, Cecily, thanks for saying that. That's actually an amazing point and very true, and something that I think many people need to be reminded of. These are actual real people with real lives who have real fear. Most of the clients that we help, real fear for their own safety and the safety of their children and their family. So jumping off that, we help a lot of people who are filing for asylum. We do affirmative asylum, which means we help them file with USCIS. They are not yet in court or doing removal proceedings. So that argument is just based on they have a credible fear of returning to their home country based on persecution. So we have a lot of asylum clients. We also help people who are victims of violence, whether that's domestic violence, whether they've been a victim of a crime, whether they've been trafficked into the United States or while they've been in the United States. We also help clients with humanitarian parole. Maybe the context in which most people would know about this program is the Ukrainians who came when the war started. We filed a lot of humanitarian parole for Ukrainians, but also Afghanistan, lots of other countries. But humanitarian parole is also open to anyone who wants to apply for it and qualifies. So we also do, family reunification. So people filing who just don't have the financial means to file for their family members who they would like to be with now that they're here in the United States. So yeah, we kind of run the gamut of anyone who is low income, who we can help. That's more humanitarian based. That's who we serve.
I know you're obviously based in the Bay Area primarily. Are you helping these individuals who are also based in the Bay Area, or what does that reach look like?
So we actually have, like Envoy Global and Corporate Immigration Partners, we have embraced this remote model, right? So we are, as long as they have the ability and the wherewithal to receive our services through, their computers or their smartphones or however they can access technology, we're happy to help them. So our clients, yes, we have many in the Bay Area. But we also have many in the Chicago area. We have some in Texas. We have some, in the Midwest and the East Coast. I even have a few clients in Hawaii. So yeah, we're wherever we can help them, we'll do it.
Nancy, it's really great hearing the work that you and the Rise Foundation are doing. I'm curious, I guess, this is maybe more of a process standpoint. I'm curious, how does the pro bono process work? So do individuals come to you and you work directly with them? I'm just wondering if you just, share some more insight on that.
So do you mean the clients or the attorneys that do the pro bono work?
The clients.
Okay, yeah. So most clients have been word of mouth. So we're already kind of well known within a sector of people who maybe are low income or no income. And I think lots of people have done Google searches actually for us. If they're not word of mouth, I think that's the second most relevant source of our people who know about what we do, where they find out about us. So they come to us. We kind of give them a quick screening. I just explain, this is the clientele we help. Do you qualify? They verify or not. And we kind of just go from there.
Now, Nancy, I think they're, hearing the mission and everything. I love my grandparents. Both sides are immigrants, and I think they're, we're more connected than we from our backgrounds and whatnot. However, there is that elephant in the room that we're seeing in the news and whatnot. So I'm curious to hear your perspective about how you're approaching the work that you're doing and your mindset, daily, weekly, and monthly, and just kind of how you're handling things.
Well, yes, it's a hot topic right now, I think. Unfortunately, I do think there's a lot of misinformation or disinformation, a lot of lack of understanding about immigration and immigration history. I don't say that to put anybody on the spot, but just I think that's a reality of, it's a complex topic. It's hard to know what is truth and what is not. I think for many more recent immigrants, it's really easy to just see how their families have been affected recently. So they can be a little bit more sympathetic maybe than families who it's so far removed. They don't understand that, 100 years ago when their family immigrated, immigration was a much different landscape. And unfortunately, immigration in the United States has always had a bit of stronger restrictions against countries based on the time. So, in addition to educating our clients and the general public about immigration laws, we're really focusing ourselves on just staying also up to date on what's been going on. Literally changes every day. We have new information every day. We know litigation is coming, so it's a waiting game to see what's going to happen in the court so that we can advise our clients accordingly. It's a scary time for immigrants, even immigrants who are here on legal status, because they don't know what's going to happen. The landscape is unfortunately changing so rapidly, back and forth, that at this point, I have to tell most of our clients, follow the news. And if you happen to hear something before I do, reach out to me and let's figure out, where we stand at this moment, because it really has been day to day with all the different changes.
Do you have any insights or advice? You mentioned following the news, but for folks listening, if they just want to stay up to date, because as you mentioned, things are changing so rapidly. In your experience and your professional career history, what are your go-to resources or things that you like to check to kind of just stay on top of things?
Well, I'm a member of ALA, the American Immigration Lawyers Association. So they daily kind of put some recent headline postings for everybody to stay on top of everything. I also think it's not maybe breaking news, but the Immigration Legal Resource Center, the ILRC, provides a lot of informative information for attorneys and for the general public. Okay, American Immigration Council organization. That's another one that I go to for information. But really, it is at this point, a lot of it is just staying on top of the news, because things are just it's more current event than anything else. It's not just a niche of information anymore.
So looking ahead, Nancy, with Rise and the work that you're doing, where do you want to take the organization?
Well, what we're hoping is to help more people, to help. I think I mentioned earlier about how at this point we do a lot of affirmative asylum applications, but we would like to also incorporate defensive work, people who are already in removal proceedings, to help them navigate their defense. Many of them do have a valid defense, but they can't afford attorneys to help them. The court system is very backlogged, and it's hard to find attorneys who can dedicate the resources and the time to pro bono defensive work. So that's a big goal of ours, and just to grow our staff so that we can help more people. There's a very large need at this time. People are really inundated with requests for assistance, including ourselves. So, the more staff that we have, the more people we can help. And that's just our goal right now, is just to reach more people.
You mentioned growing your staff, so curious that if any immigration attorneys are listening and they want to get involved with Rise, is that possible? And what steps would you recommend that they take to reach out or get in contact with you?
So at this time, we are happy to work with any attorney who's interested in pro bono legal work. We can connect them with clients to help and guide them and mentor them through the process if they would like that. We already have a lot of attorneys and paralegals that we work with, some of them very regularly. Whenever they finish a case, they want a new one, because it really is an amazing experience to help people who really need our help. And I think when we have actually full-time staff positions in the future, we will be posting that on our website.
Cecily, handing it back off to you, to any other questions or topics on your mind.
No other specific questions. I just think was really helpful, even for probably Eric too, but myself included, to learn a little bit more about the Rise Foundation and to give you the forum to be able to talk on it. I think it's such a wonderful cause and foundation, and Envoy Global is glad to be involved in it and put on this foundation and work with you, Nancy, and all of the amazing clients that you work with. That's it from my side, Eric, unless you have anything else to cover there.
No, I echo Cecily, your words and your thoughts. Nancy, I really appreciate the work that you're doing, the work that the Rise is doing. I think it's important and very valuable, especially, again, going back to the news, kind of what we're seeing. I guess to maybe zoom out a little bit and kind of, you know, poke your brain a little bit, if you will, as you've lived, obviously lived in the US, Canada, Spain. If you were to build your ideal, immigration system or borrow things from other countries where you've lived, what would you put together?
That's a tough question. I'm not a policy person. I'm someone who works with people on the day to day, so I think I definitely have a skewed perspective of you know um, helping people and how to do that. I think at this point, just from what I've experienced, I think the immigration system in Canada is a lot easier to navigate, a lot friendlier to navigate. There are still restrictions, there are still, boundaries, but as long as you meet the requirements, you can immigrate to Canada, and their requirements just aren't quite as stringent as the United States. I think they're a little bit more reasonable. But again, I'm not a policy person, so I'm not sure I'm the best person to ask that question to.
No, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I think, it's just given our line of work and everything, we kind of pick ideas here and there, and it's just like, oh, it'd
Yeah,
be like if I were to put a puzzle together of sorts, what would I take from these other countries based off of what I'm reading about?
yeah, exactly.
Well, Nancy, before we hop off, is there anything else that we didn't discuss, or anything else that you want to bring to the, share some insight or anything like that regarding Rise or the work that you're doing?
Okay, so to answer your question, I think I'd like to expound a little bit more on what Cecily said earlier about just remembering that immigration is really a human factor. I think people who work with immigrants on the daily, whether that's in the business immigration world or the humanitarian sector, you see that there is a real person, a real story, a real family behind these immigration stories. They're not just nameless faces. Uh, I encourage people to educate themselves about immigration laws in the United States and the immigration history in the United States. I think that would make people a lot more empathetic and understanding about what people are going through. Maybe touching on why the people are coming to the United States, what has displaced them, or beyond even just people who are coming here through for education or for work. What else is moving people to come to the United States, and why is it important for us to support them? Uh, I think the other thing I'd like to say is that people who come to the United States and they file for asylum, they file for humanitarian parole, they file for these different applications to gain permanent or legal status in the United States, they're all vetted, they are all fingerprinted, they go through a security process. So there aren't people here who have, a criminal history and living in the United States. So that's one thing that I'd like to also reiterate for the public in general. I think that's some misinformation that might be out there. Um, and also just thinking about, the immigrants in your own community and how they positively impact not only, your schools and your environments, but just what they contribute to the where you shop, how you shop, where you eat, how you eat. Um, I think that immigration in the United States is a really important part of what makes America America and so wonderful and something in a country to be proud of.
Well, Nancy, it's been a pleasure talking with you this morning as we record. We really appreciate you hopping on the show to talk more about Rise and the pro bono work that you're doing. Um, and really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.